Hello everyone and welcome back. So, I think I've got enough of the soundproofing up. There's still a lot more to come up, so I do apologize if it's still a bit weird. So, let's talk about the Tau. I know, not one of the confirmed factions just yet, but we're going to be covering everyone, and the Tau are a faction that I can play. You can boo and hiss all you want, but I've loved the Tau since the early 2000s. Being able to shoot across the board, having a lot of different unit options, and to be fair, like the suits are kind of cool. The Tau roster is fairly good if you start looking towards all the stuff that was released for Forge World. One day I'll paint my Manta. One day. Maybe. We'll see. And the best thing about the Tau is even their basic suits have a lot of different weapon options, which is going to allow for them to be quite different on the field. We don't know exactly how Creative Assembly is going to handle troops, because we've seen some weapon swapping in one of the clips, but it was more cinematic. So is that going to be a thing, or are we just going to have different variants like we do in Total War Warhammer? Like, for example, state troops having all these different types. Regardless of it, we're going to be talking about pretty much all the different types anyway, because, again, I like the Tau. I really like the Tau. So let's just jump right in. So we'll start off first with the Fire Warriors. So Fire Warriors are the frontline troopers for the Tau, and how it works here is it's being divided into the Breachers and the Strike Team. Really, it's the same. So don't you worry about that. You don't have to think, oh, there's going to be two different things with different stat lines. The only difference is that you've got the pulse rifle for the strike team, which is 30-inch range. It is one of the best in terms of range for basic infantry troopers. I like them. It's basically what you see most Tau art on about. And then there's the Breacher team, which have the pulse blaster. So the pulse blaster is more kind of like a shotgun, kind of short range, still decent in damage. Those ones are the ones that you got right up front, and really it's two different types of Fire Warriors again. So you've got long range or short range, and it depends on what you go with your chosen type of drones. We'll talk about drones a little bit later, don't worry, because there's a lot of drone options. I imagine these to be like a tier 1 unit if they still go by the same tier system, which I don't imagine they'll shy away from. With, again, we don't have any details on building, but I imagine that the Breachers, being the absolute basics, being the first ones that you can generally recruit in a campaign. We'll have to wait and see regarding that. But yeah, Fire Warriors, very basic, usually in groups of 10, which is usually 9 basic Fire Warriors and then a Chasseur, which is kind of like the unit champion. Keeping on with the infantry units, we have Pathfinders. So these are kind of like your scout troopers, and you've got them with a fair amount of different weapon options. So generally they have pulse carbines, which is fairly decent range, 20-inch range, ballistic skill 4, strength 5, and it gives very good damage overall. You've got them there to just kind of move around the table. But you can also have them upgraded with special weapons. A full group of 10, once again, can have up to 3 special weapons, being rail rifles or ion rifles. Rail rifles being very heavy hitters, ion rifles are the same, but you can overcharge them. There's a little bit of a risk to that. Both weapons are very long range also. This is where I could see changes coming in, either if we get 4 unit upgrades where we can get some of them there, kind of in a very similar style to that of Dawn of War, where certain units in a squad can do that, or if Creative Assembly go with their traditional route where they just separate stuff, and we've been seeing separation throughout all of Total War Warhammer. So potentially 1 unit, potentially 3. Preferably, I'd like to have 3, so then I could just have a bunch of Pathfinders with rail rifles out there. You know, that's living the dream that you can't do on the tabletop, and sometimes we can do that in Total War Warhammer, so could work here too. So these guys should be a little bit faster to move around, get into control points if there's any, and just mostly have them as your scout troopers. Think of them kind of like your skirmishers in Total War Warhammer. Recently they received a model update thanks to Kill Team. Kill Team has been doing wonders for 40k in general. I've also just forgotten about the semi-automatic grenade launcher, which could work out quite well too, giving you something just to do a little damage to squads, especially if you're going to be dealing with orcs. What we've been able to see from the very limited screenshots of 40k is that there is quite a lot of numbers. Grenade launchers would be very useful here, very similar to that of the Empire Pistoliers. Well, the Outriders, not the Pistoliers. They wouldn't be as quick moving around, but the damage should be done especially on a choke point. Again, no talking about the drones just yet, because there's so many things that use drones. I want to have that as its own separate section. Alright, we're going to put these two together because, yeah, I mean, it's the same type of unit. The only difference is it's a new armor pattern, and that means that things are going to change. But it's the XV26 and the XV25 stealth battlesuits. The stealth battlesuits are kind of cool. They usually come in groups of 3 to 5. Mostly 5 now, mostly because 10th edition has been kind of unifying that a little bit. So stealth suits have the same purpose as basically Pathfinders, just a little bit more durable. You can use them to get behind enemy lines. There's a lot of stealth tech when it comes to the Tau. Weapon options do vary. It's mostly just the burst cannon, for example, which is kind of like a little Gatling gun, very good at dealing with hordes, loads of enemy units, stuff that, you know, you're going to be dealing with a lot. If you're going to be fighting against the guard, there's going to be a lot of unit numbers. The other type is, of course, the Fusion Blaster, which is more focused around hitting out very heavily armored troopers. So if you're dealing against tanks like a Repulsor or hell, Stomper, those things you're going to need a lot of AP to hit down. They're kind of crap in melee, even though they have a decent strength value, but then again, 99.9% of the Tau forces are really bad for melee. It's more focused around the Kroot themselves. That's really all for the infantry troopers, really, barring the Kroots. And this is actually why I could see Creative Assembly doing them as different unit types rather than just weapon swapping. It would be kind of cool to see both the XV25 and the XV26 being implemented too. Different stat lines and just kind of build your way up the tier system, what we're very used to, and just like extra unit types. So if you want like a full stealth suit team, you could potentially get that alongside some Ghostkeels, again, little later down this video, and just go for a full stealth battlesuit type of army, which could entirely be possible. The same thing like when you look towards like the Crisis battlesuits, which there's a lot of Crisis battlesuits if we start going into the earlier ones and the removed ones too. Alright, coming in with an edit here because I actually forgot the XV15s. So we have to talk about these two. Again, burst cannons, they're very good with like, you know, stealth field generators. A lot of these stealth suits will also have jetpacks, by the way. So it's actually quite important to note that. I forgot to mention that before. The only reason I just remembered the jetpacks and the XV15s is because I'm unpacking all my models. So yeah, you could have a tier 2, 3, and 4 one of the stealth suits, and then if we end up getting like a stealth suit based character, which there's a lot of Tau characters, that's going to be a video in its own right, we could end up getting them 1, 2, and 3 instead. We've seen a lot of stuff like that with regards to Total War Warhammer, where certain units will be pushed down a tier just so they're recruited earlier for certain characters, and that generally works out quite well. I think a lot of people quite like that. Frog is the perfect example now. The Troll King gets access to trolls at tier 1, and it is absolutely wonderful. We're going to move on to all the big battle suits, and we're going to start off with the Broadside, because there's 2 different types. Well, technically 3, because there's like the very old version, but the Broadsides are your heavy dudes. These are the ones with either a heavy rail rifle, very good to punch against very big pieces of armor, or high-yield missile pods. So loads and loads of firing missiles. You can get a lot of secondary stuff too, like Seeker missiles and twin-link plasma rifles, but in most cases, most people will be just looking towards the main weapons. The great thing about the Tau is so much customability comes into a lot of the Crisis suits. So these can be very far back. The heavy rail rifle has 60-inch range. Basically, it's back there just to support you from really far away. It's an artillery piece. They're very slow to move, so don't expect them to go up front and do a lot of damage. Let's be very honest there. No matter how chunky this is, really, the melee is never going to be a big thing here. You can have these nowadays in groups of 3, which I think is ridiculous, but yeah, I mean, they're not that amazing, so it's perfectly fine, and you're going to need marker drones with them anyway. I would love to see the old version, which was really, really cool. It had 2 rail rifles on its shoulders, as maybe something that could be done as a regiment of renown. Something like that would work out quite well. It'd be playing on the nostalgia factor. I don't see it coming in as a unit, because obviously you don't want a suit carrying 2 rail rifles. I mean, you do, but it doesn't really make sense, right? Alright, I'm a little concerned. It's been a while since I've looked at the Games Workshop website, but the Crisis battlesuits are gone. And these are something which are so iconic, I imagine that they're not going to get removed fully. Instead, they'll likely just decide to bring them in with a brand new look. Slowly but surely, the Tau have been getting updates. And yeah, I would be absolutely devastated if they just remain in Legends. We're going to try and be brief here because there's a lot of Crisis battlesuits, and mostly it's just different ones that have come in through Forge World. But yeah, we've got access to burst cannons, we've got access to fusion blasters, to missile pods. There is so much, and I think that they could easily add in a lot of them without making it too much. I think the problem here also is the fact that a lot of them have names now, right? So it's not just Crisis battlesuits, they are like Fire Knives, Star Scythes, Sun Forgers, all of them basically doing the same thing just with different weapons. Most of them also have jetpacks, so they're able to move around quite quickly. Tau are generally quite mobile when it comes to the suits and also the vehicles. The infantry troopers are just there to hold the line and hold positions. Now, I do think that there's quite a lot that they can do with this in terms of different troop stylings. I wouldn't mind weapon swapping, but I feel like there is just so much you can easily pad out the roster quite well there. And let's be fair, like when it comes to Creative Assembly, they like to do DLC packs, so I don't think that we'll get everything early on. I'd rather if they just focused around specific troopers and giving us all the weapon options than going, okay, here's a DLC with a different weapon option, because that's not going to fly. That being said, there's a lot of unique ones, so we're going to talk about those. And if you hear a lot of buzzing sounds, that's my cat who's decided he wants to cuddle during the cold. So yeah, he's right next to the microphone. A lot of the crisis suits themselves are kind of specialized to be in close range. And this is also the same case for the XV9, which is called a Hazard Close Support Armor. These are a Forge Wall version. There's different variants too, because you can get them with 2 twin-linked burst cannons, but you can also get them with fusion cascades and phased ion guns. As you can imagine, those are better for taking out some armor stuff. Both of them, well, all 3 of them, very, very cool. Very cool armor type. One of the best, actually, I think. It's just very slender, right? A lot of the battle suits nowadays are so clunky. Don't get me wrong, I like the broadsides. They look very, very cool, and we'll be talking about the Stormsurge in a little second. But I like the slender look. It makes them more mobile, it makes them quick. Again, jetpacks, a lot of these have jetpacks, and thrusters. These ones have thrusters for very fast speed. We're going to have to talk about a lot. I feel like there's going to be about 5 or 6 videos relating to the Tau. These are really, really cool. I think you can get these with characters too. It's been a while. It's been an absolute while. But with these and other crisis suits, like, you shouldn't be too afraid to take them up close and personal. They're designed to be able to fight there. The burst cannons don't have a lot of range, but they're good at that. And the great thing about these jetpacks too is you can get behind the enemy lines, fire at them. That's always been like the case with a lot of these suits. All right, we'll talk about the XV109. So this one is very similar to that of a Riptide, but the difference is it's not very mobile. Instead, it's focused very heavily on having very good armor and also focusing around having very strong power, with the firepower being kitted out with pulse submunition cannons. And those cannons are very, very good at taking out a lot of enemies. It's basically plasma pulses. I know it sounds weird, but like, we'll be talking about all the weapon stuff very soon. There's going to be weapons videos dedicated to like how certain weapons work and so on, right? But yeah, very, very cool. One of the best looking battle suits. Forge World, again, very expensive, but it's just how it was, right? And I just want to be very brief with these because I think we're going to be talking more about the Riptides, and like there's going to be more detail regarding those. But before that, we're going to talk about the XV109. So this is another big one, right? And it's a bit different. So they are more of a shock trooper, right? They have phased plasma flamers, triple barreled at that. Very good at taking out very potent armor, which is wonderful, alongside being able to get a massive EMP discharge cannon. So again, very, very good. And it's there to just slow down enemy war engines at that. I like it. It's another Forge World piece. You can imagine that these were very tough to kind of handle. Old Forge World, it's not good. The newer stuff is really good though. I like the stuff I've done for the old world. Wonderful. Really, really good. It's definitely a big boy. You don't really get the sheer scope and scale of how big these battle suits are. Well, most of them. Some of them can be kind of small, but a lot of them are very, very large. All right, we talked about the variants, so let's go back and talk about the XV104, also known as the Riptide battle suit. So, very big units, as you can imagine, comes with a heavy burst cannon, but you can switch it around if you want to change it to a fusion blaster, plasma rifle. You can also get smart weapon systems. There's a lot of customability when it comes to this big boy. Loads and loads of different upgrades. I'm a very big fan of it. Again, very clunky, but it's very, very good at what it does. But generally 2 weapon options, which is like the main ones. They have a burst cannon and the ion accelerator. It depends on your uses for it. The burst cannon is very, very good. The thing with the ion weapons is like, you know, there's always a risk, right? Because it's hazardous. It can actually do some damage to you. Like, I don't imagine people getting a Riptide very early into a campaign, but it's one of those big monsters. See it in the very similar styles to how some people can start with some tier 5s. It'd be really cool just to see them in action. I'm a big, big fan of all the stealth suits. Well, crisis suits. I'm talking about stealth suits because we're going to talk about the Ghostkeel. So this, as a fun fact, was one of the first models I painted when I came back to Warhammer, because I took a break post End Times. Like, I really needed one. And yeah, when I came back, this was there. It was one of the boxes there on the shelves. I was like, oh, look, this is fun. Why not? So these are a massive self-suit. You can get them with different types of weapons, like obviously a Fusion Collider, Sonic Iron Raker, and you can get them with different flamer attachments, so flamers, fusion blasters, and also twin burst cannons. There's so much that can be done with the Ghostkeel. You got the big weapon, and then you've got the attachments on the shoulder pads. I'm a big fan of these. I like stealth builds. And you can move around quite quickly. It's also kind of well paired up with stealth drones alongside all the different stealth suits that could be possible. Ghostkeels are basically there to be behind enemy lines, right? And just do some damage. I'm thinking about that really old school 8th edition stealth. Was it 8th or was it 9th? Stealth build, which was pretty damn cool. Yeah, I mean, we can get something very similar with Shadow Sun because there is a character for that. There's going to be a dedicated video to all like the named characters. But yeah, such a cool model. I really, really like it. Really easy to build compared to a lot of like more modern 40k kits, well, Warhammer kits in general. We're still not done with the suits, by the way, and we've got the XV109, also known as a Stormsurge, or as I like to call it, the Paperweight, because it's literally done nothing for me throughout the many times I've tried to use it. So yeah, this is a big unit. This is basically a Lord of War, which is basically the really, really big things. Heavy weapons fitting. It's there to just like bunker down and hit incredibly hard. You can have these with different types of weapons, as you can imagine. The main thing is the whole pulse driver cannon, but you can get a pulse blast cannon. You've also got all the different types of weapons on the side, like fragmentation projectors. You've got all the rocket systems, because this is a big unit. It's got so many weapons attached to it. It's absolutely huge. One of the cooler models, I just wish it was better for me. Like, I seriously just couldn't get it to do squat in battles. But yeah, think of this as destructive as like the Dreadsaurian just from a distance, and it should be able to be upfront and personal because it's very heavily armored, so it should be fine. But don't expect any melee. I mean, what's the point of even just saying don't expect any melee? This is the Tau. But yeah, I think this is going to be quite a cool one to see, and I think a lot of people will like the Stormsurge. And now the last battlesuit, which yes, this counts as a battlesuit, is the the KX139 Taunar Supremacy battlesuit, or Supremacy armor, and it is wild. As you can imagine, there are different types of weapons, so you can get them with a lot of different weapon options. So heavy rail cannon, Nexus missile system. There is so much, because this is a unit that you can kind of just change around a lot, with the arm weapons also being fusion eradicators or tri-axis ion cannons. This will all make sense down the line when we start going into like how the Tau should play. There is just so many weapons, and it's an expensive unit. I think it's one of the more expensive models, barring the Manta, because the Manta was about 2,000. When it comes to this, it's weapon options, right? Tau have so many weapon options, and you can take advantage of that and just do so much carnage. You will bring them with an idea in mind. If you're playing against, say, for example, very heavily armored Custodes, you'd want to bring the rail rifle, but then the missiles will do very good against hordes. It's very rare that you'll bring these on the table because they're stupid expensive, well, not just money-wise, but also just points. But they're very, very, very cool. And I wouldn't be surprised if that's like one of the big ones, right? Like Creative Assembly like to do centerpiece units with DLC. I could imagine this in the DLC in the future. Again, free variants would be awesome. Not out of the question. We've seen big stuff come in with variants too. But when you're thinking about how the scope of scale of Total War 40k compared to Warhammer Fantasy would be, these are just so much larger, so much larger. It would take a while to get all this done. And there's so many units that have been mentioned in the lore but haven't been implemented. And hell, we're not even done yet. We've just done like what is considered the battle suits. And in most cases, I would consider those infantry. They're considered vehicles, but you know what I mean. Okay, we're done with all the suits as far as I can recall, so we're going to talk about vehicles, and we're going to start off with the Devilfish. So very basic, it's a troop transport, and yeah, it's got burst cannons on it. I think you can have some other weapons, let me check. Yeah, so you can give them seeker missiles, and you can switch out the drones for smart missile systems. Essentially, yeah, this is a transport, it's fast moving, it's take units from A to B. Something that's very useful. I know a lot of people that swear by them. I didn't, and mostly because if I'm going to be using a vehicle, I'm going to be going for some extra guns. And I wasn't too good, I'm not going to lie, at taking control points. That's something that's become more and more common when it comes to 40k, whereas before it was like, oh, just table them and you're done. Not that you could build many table lists when it came to the Tau, but hey, I tried nonetheless. Either way, cool, easy to paint too. And let's jump into the others. I don't have to talk about this one too much, but we do have the Hammerhead, so essentially it's the tank, right? This has got a massive railgun and it's there to fire. It can move around fairly efficiently, so it's based on the Devilfish chassis also. And the idea is you move it around, you fire, you can get it with weapon systems at the bottom too, and also a burst cannon. You add like the 3 main weapons, so plasma cannons, the railgun, or the ion cannon. Like just with possible unit variants alone, it's probably the better way of saying it, because we don't know how it's going to be handled. I mean, the Tau probably have more in terms of variants than, say, maybe the Empire. Honestly, when it comes to the Hammerhead, they're cool. I think there's cooler stuff, much cooler stuff when it comes to the Tau Empire, totally. And we're definitely not done with this chassis. We have one more. The Skyray gunship, which I completely forgot was originally a Forge World upgrade, is another one based on the Devilfish chassis. The difference here is you've got quite a few guns at the bottom, focusing on burst cannons, basically just to give you some proper shooting. But the main thing at the top is your rack of seeker missiles. This one is probably the most situational of all the different types of Devilfish, but I've seen people that like it. The main thing is like you've got so many options. You can play around with so many different things. Personally, never really used them. I've got 2 painted pretty badly in the old Tau Orca scheme with the upgrade, I think. Oh my god. It's been a while. But yeah, if you want a fast-moving missile system, this is probably going to be the one for you. But let's move on because there's still a lot to talk about. The next one is the Tetra. We're going to start moving on to the smaller vehicles now. So the Tetra isn't really a fighting vehicle. It's like a scout. Yeah, it's basically a scout. It can go very, very fast. And it does have some shooting ability, but like this is supposed to be there just to kind of go in and out. I don't know if this will ever be added in. It would be kind of cool. I mean, it did have a model. I think it was a Forge World model too. But yeah, maybe it could be done just to capture points quickly, move aside, be the spellcaster hunter in a sense. It depends on how this gets added in. Unit sizes could be very weird. Maybe they'll go singular. Maybe they'll do more for the smaller ones. The thing is with these is they can be upgraded with like targeting systems and so on. So maybe if they do something different, this is the benefit of a brand new engine, right? Warcore probably has a lot more capabilities and we could probably see a lot more stuff being added to allow for just weird and wonderful things. Like even I don't even know how to explain it because I've not seen Warcore fully in action, you know? Next is the Piranha. Now the Piranha, there's 2 different types, right? The general one, I think is classified as a TX4, but then there's the other one, which is the TX4-2. And these are just light skimmers, right? They move around very quickly, kind of similar to like the Space Marine land speeders. You've got some drones attached to it, some burst cannons, and they're just going to move around, do damage, kind of disappear into like they're just scouts essentially. Think of them as a skirmishing vehicle, and they're very cool for that. The second version, I don't think ever had a miniature, not as far as I can remember, or it never got fully released or something. And they actually had some different types of weaponry there, which I think were fusion blasters. No, rail rifles, sorry. It takes a while, because like, it's been a while since I've been able to play. Yeah, in the new area, I've already found the Warhammer Club, so I'm looking forward to being able to play hopefully some Old World and some 40k. But yeah, light skimmers, not really much to talk about there. It's just in and out quickly. They should be able to move around super, super quick. But lastly, in terms of units, we do have quite a few in terms of flyers, right? The Orca dropship being, well, you know, it's a dropship, it's a transport, it's a very big transport at that. And then the Manta, the same thing, it's a army transport. So the Orca leaves the Manta, the Orca arrives with like loads of fire warrior teams and so on. Whereas the Manta transports like full contingents, full armies. There's really a lot that can be done though. I like them. We do know that space is going to be a thing and that we do know fleets are going to be a thing. So we need to talk about those in that regard. There's quite a lot that can be done with them. It's just we're going to have to wait and see if it's going to be traditional dogfights. It's going to be very similar to like Battlefield Gothic. The transports are cool. I own a Manta, I own an Orca too, and I'm really happy to just like have them because I think they're all out of production now for a decent amount of time. But they're obviously not the most exciting in terms of transports. The only thing is like, yeah, they're huge because like the Manta is, I think it's like a 20-something inch wingspan for a model. And you've seen how small Warhammer is, right? Can you imagine how big that actually is? Now there are generic flyers too. The Barracuda, for example, which was also updated, I believe, with, yes, the AX52. The Sun Shark, the Razor Shark, both very similar. And I think the last one was the Tiger Shark. As you can see, the theming there, a lot of stuff was just very nautical themed, well, named at least. But all of them are quite fast, as you can imagine. Tau stuff is generally really quick to get in and out. It's not long-standing fights, but more dog fights. And that's what the Tau have always been very good for. Quickly in, do your damage, get out. And it's smart. I like it. It's a very fun playstyle. There's not really much to talk about them, really. It's like, yeah, you know, some of them have got fusion blasters, ion cannons. It's the same as basically everyone else within the Tau. A lot of this weaponry is basically just, well, I think most of the weaponry is Tau exclusive. It doesn't jump into other factions. I mean, I can't wait to see how naval fights are going to be done. The thing is, if we get naval fights, because they've said moving fleets, so I can assume there's going to be naval fights. The big question there is, how is it going to be done with all the factions? Because there are so many different types of playstyles, and especially when it comes to naval stuff. The Imperium stuff is more grounded. Everyone's kind of very similar, but yeah, Tau are very, very quick. Necrons are very slow, but very hard-hitting. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how Creative Assembly, if Creative Assembly, interpret that. It's an awkward thing until we get like full confirmation, you know? We're going to have a quick talk about the buildings, because obviously there's the tide wall, the drone port, the shield wall, and shield line, sorry, and also the gun rig. I don't know. Like, maybe just generic buildings. I mean, this is the thing. In Total War, well, not Total War, but in 40k, you do have access to buildings that you can kind of bring down. So the tide walls are the perfect example. There's also like the bunkers for the Space Marines. I don't know if they're going to be interpreted or if they're just going to be used as basic function for buildings, which I imagine so, because like, I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know who the hell uses the tide wall stuff. I've got some of the tide wall stuff. I don't think I've ever used it in a game, at all. Yeah, seriously, I don't think I've ever used it at all. I just got them because they look cool for scenery backing, you know? And I think that's just generally the thing. The Space Marine one has more uses, but meh, you know? Okay, and the very last thing is the drones. So, I don't know what's going to happen with drones. There are loads and loads of drones, right? Like there's heavy gun drones, marker drones, shield drones, basic gun drones. There's the flying drones, the sniper drones. That's something that is kind of needed. There's also the... oh my god, there's so many Remora drones. Like, I'm not going to list them all. The thing here is drones do form part of the military for the Tau. You can use them for different things. Marker drones being probably the most important thing for the Tau, because this is why you were able to shoot from so far away and still accurately get a shot out, because you had the benefit of the marker drones essentially increasing your chances to hit. Gun drones were very useful. They're attached to a lot of stuff. I don't want to see them as auxiliaries or items. I would like to see them as units. But I could imagine drones being used as auxiliaries. The thing is, like, you can already get marker lights and the rest, right? To already make it easier for you to shoot. There are a few like the sniper drones, which I could imagine being done as units. I think more or less time is going to have to wait here. I don't know if CA are even planning about the Tau just yet. Obviously, we'll get to see them eventually. We're going to see everyone eventually. It just makes sense. There's so much money to be made here. Alongside, well, you know, DLC, and it's an active community, it's an active setting. It's just, yeah, look what happened with Total War Warhammer, and then just say, yeah, that's going to be the same, but maybe even larger scale. So, we're going to end the video here, and I know what you might be saying. You're missing generic characters, you're missing the Kroot, you're missing the Vespids, you're missing Gravessa, you're missing quite a lot. No, I am going to do a video dedicated to all the different character types, because I feel like they need to be explained quite heavily, alongside all the different types of named characters, and I want the Kroot and the allies to be their own separate video, because that's going to be quite a large one in their own right. It's going to be interesting. There's going to be a lot of videos, so yeah, just, you know, keep looking at the channel. If everything goes well, there should be videos going out every single day, maybe even 2 a day, 3 a day, depending on how well I can get work done. As you can imagine, I am right now still in the middle of the construction of the house. I'm stopping, I'm getting stuff done, and then I'm trying to get back to streaming too. I'm being pulled at multiple sides. So yeah, kind of fun. But I'll see you all again very soon, guys. Have a great day, and I should be live later on twitch.tv/thegreatbookofgrudges, playing some Dawnless Days, because I've been itching to try that out. So yeah, have a good one. Bye.